bit more.
When nothing else works, it's not because you're broken, it's because no one's been looking in the right place. In this episode, we'll uncover how true healing begins when you address the root cause, not just the symptoms. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life health transformational coaches and spiritual entrepreneurs stepping up to be the change they seek in the world. I'm your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist, on a mission to help coaches and entrepreneurs amplify their voice, monetize their mission, and get visible. If you're ready to start attracting premium clients without chasing them down or hunting people down like a banshee on a mission, head over to coachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. It's the first step in building a business where your clients seek you out rather than you having to hunt them down. Today, we are chatting with Dr. Brad Montagne. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Dr. Brad is a passionate caregiver and functional medicine expert with over 4 decades of research, postgraduate study, and clinical experience in restoring health to those struggling with chronic illness. His approach goes far beyond traditional care, using in-depth testing and a deep understanding of physiology to uncover the real reasons behind ongoing sickness. Having overcome his own health challenges through faith and science, Dr. Brad now helps others reclaim their vitality and freedom through root cause healing. Welcome to the show, Dr. Brad. It's great to have you with us.
Well, thanks for the invitation. I think this will be a great conversation.
So let me ask you, what's the most significant thing in your opinion as individuals we can do to make an impact on how the world is going?
Change the way you eat. No doubt about it. That's number one. Just change the way that you eat. I've got a book called Healing Lifestyles. It's on getmewell.net. It talks about simple lifestyle things that you can actually change your genetic expression, change your destiny, and start to reclaim your life. It's free. It's on there. Leave your email, and you got a roadmap right there.
It's so interesting how we've evolved to a point where we have so many really brilliant people and all of this medical technology and information out there. And it's really, it's such a basic thing, the idea of eating.
Yes.
You can't really live without it, but so many people don't pay any attention to the things that they're adding to their body, and then they wonder why they're not doing well.
It's an amazing thing. I was working with somebody years ago who made a statement. I really need to reframe my attitude toward the food that I put into my body. And what's gone on with the food industry and everything else, that's an absolute reality. I forget who it was that said, you are what you eat, but it's more than that. Food is our building blocks. And
It's
RFK,
science.
yeah, RFK Jr. has made it clear that about 73% of the crops in America are subsidized. Of all the subsidies, that's GMO is the wagging dog to keep people off the real issues, the herbicides and pesticides they use to keep those plants growing. They're extremely toxic. That goes to all the subsidized foods that are calorie dense and nutrient vacuums. And they're since it's all subsidized, it's cheaper. That's what people buy, and they're building poor health rather than health in what they're buying at the store and consuming.
And soda pop. They're just looking for calories and not nourishment. And it's the just eat less and move more.
Yeah,
That might have been a thing 40 or 50 years ago when you actually could like buy a carrot and it would have some nutritional value to it. But even things that we think are health foods, like greens, for instance, I shudder when I hear about people juicing greens. Greens are, are designed to take up heavy metals. And when you start juicing them, you're just like really intensifying the poisons that are part of this thing that should be good for you.
yeah, you just said something that opens up a huge can of worms. There's a lot of plants that are what's called hyper accumulators.
Mhm.
They mine very deeply. It's I'm forgetting what I can see what the plant is, but I can't remember its name. It mines 90 feet down into the ground and pulls
Kale?
nutrients. No, it's something. It's not mullein, but it looks close to that. I think it
Hmm.
starts with a C. It's common to plant those really close to your apple trees and just
Hmm.
chop the leaves off because as the leaves decay, it brings all those nutrients to the topsoil. And you look at rice, it's a hyperaccumulator. So if you grow the rice in a healthy place,
Hmm.
it's accumulating nutrients. But if you plant rice in fields like the Sacramento Valley in California, last time I visited my mom out there as I flying out, I see all these square ponds of water where they've been farming all of this GMO stuff for decades. This extremely toxic, but rice is a commodity that's really become a more vogue plant with a huge return. And they're just flooding all these toxic soil places in growing rice, not people not realizing rice is a hyper accumulator and it's some of the worst food you could possibly have.
And wheat,
Wheat's
wheat
insane.
wheat is really insane. But you used to say wheat is the staff of life. Well, it used to be, and bread used to be, but you can't eat bread anymore unless you make it yourself and you're really careful with it. But
Yeah,
even then, it unless you're grinding it yourself.
it
And
doesn't help. It doesn't help. 95% of the hard wheat crop in America is sprayed with Roundup
Mhm.
2 to 3 days to 3 weeks before it's harvested. So the
Mhm.
plant withers and they don't have to worry about drying. It does not increase its yield. They proved that in studies, the University of Minnesota. Nobody wants to look at it because it's a convenience. But corn is 10 times worse than wheat.
Oh yeah, the corn is just not edible anymore. It's
Yeah,
it's not a food.
yeah. The atrazine they use to keep corn growing is 10 times worse than Roundup. And when
And they
we,
make it is a pesticide. I mean, things
Mhm.
don't eat it. If something else won't eat it, you probably shouldn't either.
That's well said. When you look at the original building blocks of herbicides and pesticides, that was a leftover nerve gas and things like that from the chemical warfare in World War II. Most people aren't aware of that,
Like
but
fluoride, they didn't know what to do with it, so they decided to, oh, let's stick it in the drinking water. That's a good idea. We'll tell them it saves them from getting cavities. Also not true.
Hitler had them put fluoride in the water because it dumbs people down
Oh,
and they're more
yeah.
submissive.
Okay.
Oh,
That, he thought
it's
that was a good
amazing.
idea here.
Yeah, it's amazing what gets um, narratives. We're in a age where narratives are just a absolute barrage. And the one thing that you can say about narratives, it doesn't matter what you think about Charlie Kirk or what's going on. There's enough people invested in looking at that. They are blowing the narrative to pieces and they're demanding answers with very, very valid things. It's huge. That pushback is really disrupting the whole agenda of what pushes everything from behind, and that's good.
I'm wondering if this thing with Reiner also won't have unintended consequences. The more these chemicals that pharmaceutical companies are pushing onto people that are really impacting the rest of the general public.
Yeah, so let's talk about what they do, and this will make people understand. When we most well, all of our food should go down into the gut. And the gut is very, very unique. If you hold your fingers up in front of your face, your fingers represent what the lining looks like. All the
Mhm.
projections come off the lining called microvilli. Those microvilli, they secrete a mucus. In between the spaces in between the microvilli is where all the microbes in the gut live. And it caps over the top a little bit. The food can never touch those. But the microvilli increases the surface area of the gut about 400 times. That's huge. It's really huge. And it gives a growing environment for all the healthy microbes that digest all of our food. And it brings the nutrients back down to the microvilli. Same thing happens with the microbes in the soil and the nutrients in the soil. Exact same thing. When you add an herbicide or pesticide, it creates an inflammatory reaction where those microvilli go like this, and they'll slowly curl, so it's just like looking at your knuckles. There's nothing to produce mucus anymore. There's no place for the microbes to hide. The good microbes wash out in the toilet, and then pathogens start to grow. So about 3/4 of the immune system's in the gut. That's because that's where the most assault should come into the body, and it's all poised there to take care of it. But the immune system has no detox function whatsoever. We've got 4 detox organs. Everybody only talks about one, but the microvilli, that border, that's one. So you got one area in the small intestine, another in the colon. All the microbes that grow in between that, that's the third one, the third detox organ. And the liver only catches what escapes out of the gut. When you add herbicides or pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, all that stuff in there, it creates inflammatory response to atrophy the microvilli. That allows, and it paralyzes the detox functions in the lining of the gut and in all the microbes that grow in there. There's they talk about that in the liver, but we use the exact same pathway to detox as to absorb our food. And Big Pharma realizes if we take oral doses, which is the easiest way, we've got to increase that 3, 4, or more times to get a blood level because all the detox that goes on inside of the gut wall. So as soon as you add that into your food, you've atrophied your gut wall. It makes it leak like a sieve. It cannot digest because all the pathogens that grow, it either ferments or rots your food. That dumps an overwhelming amount of toxicity into the bloodstream that the liver can't catch. That spills out globally. And that is a foundation of what destroys all aspects of health: hormone dysregulation, autoimmune issues, metabolic dysfunction in every sense of every organ out there. It all starts right there. And you cannot right any of those without addressing that and restoring that. Heard 2 podcasts, and I did another one with a nurse practitioner that's also a naturopath, just a couple of days ago. And all these came out in the last few days. One's from Sarah Zoll. She's an integrative medicine doc who deals with what she calls lifestyle medicine, which is what functional medicine, that came off of functional medicine. Now I do more functional wellness, just same thing. It's all the same thing. And when you look at what everybody's approaching, they go to the medical doctor to get a diagnosis, which is an insurance code. That locks a doctor into this narrow box of what their gurus tell them they can do with that. And all the pharmaceuticals they use to approach these diagnoses, Mark Hyman talked about this, Sarah Zoll talked about this, the nurse practitioner, naturopath. I asked her this specific question. All pharmaceuticals are designed to either slow down or try and stop a biochemical pathway that supposedly is going on with the disease, but you got to use a toxin to do that. Whereas you look at functional ways of doing things, lifestyle ways of doing things. You're optimizing all the healthy pathways so the body can actually function, optimize in its most maximum health that it possibly can. And it's completely diametrically opposed to what rebuilds health. And yet people are flocking thinking this is where I'm supposed to go, but they don't have the answers. I was asked to do on a summit, I think that was earlier this year, on the education of all doctors. And so I looked up the education. There's not one school program that produces, quote, doctor for healthcare that teaches the foundational issues that build poor health and how to resolve them. Not in medical school, not in chiropractic school, not in naturopathic school, and not in homeopathic. Anybody that knows these things has gone outside of the camp like Moses did with the tabernacle in the wilderness as the Hebrews are coming out of Egypt. You go outside of the camp to learn all this stuff. And most people are too busy to spend time doing it. That's where I've lived for the last 4 decades.
They're busy trying to make a living so they can afford health care so that they can go to the doctor and be poisoned. Just really like a very simplistic way of looking at it. I'd like to get back to the idea of our food supply. And do you have suggestions for people? I know a lot about food and how it's produced and where it comes from and um, the soils and all of the bits and pieces. And I'm horrified, even as a room shopper in a grocery store, that things that are supposed to be healthy just really aren't. So what do you suggest to people? Like
Okay,
how can you eat nutritionally with the situation the way it is?
you got to know a lot. And that's what we spend the most of our time with people is teaching them the ropes in their environment. Because wherever you live, it changes.
Mhm.
So a few rules of thumb. The organic label doesn't mean anything anymore. So it's not a safeguard. I've argued with people about that, but they don't understand. They're looking at research, not testing things clinically. And we've been testing things clinically in light of research. 40% of the best peer review articles in the best peer review journals have what's called spin on them. The results are not supported by the study in America suggested that 75% of the time, and the research proves 75% of the time is overt fraud, it's not mistakes. So looking at science doesn't give you an answer, doesn't give the doctors an answer. It's a manipulation by somebody who's benefiting from the study. And it's no different in the pharmaceutical side of studies and the natural side of studies, no difference. We've been testing things that have been supposedly the new breakthroughs for 4 decades. They're never what they claim to be. So that's one of those things you just got to accept and get over. The organic label doesn't mean what it probably did 30 years ago, because we've worked with people who worked inside of that industry. We've tested stuff inside of that industry. They'll do the same insane things as commercial farming does. They just put it away when the planned inspector is going to show up. So that's a reality. It's
Yeah.
just a simple reality, and we got to accept it. So where can you find clean food? Non-certified organic is generally the best choice you can possibly get. So places like Azure Standard, it's a very interesting business model where you do your orders online, and once a month they ship trucks, semis out to your area to different drops. People offload the truck into piles of different names, and then they put that in their trunk and they go away. So they don't have to pay for storefronts.
Hmm.
and it's really, really clean food. So that's one aspect right there. Vitacost has some good products as far as that goes. Your best places to shop really are farmers markets because there you can dialogue with people and you ask them, how do you feed your plants? It's a sucker question because if they start talking about feeding their plants, you just shut that one off. You be gracious and you don't have to argue with them. You just move on to somebody else because anybody that feeds their plants does not know what they're doing. If they say, I don't feed my plants, I feed my soil, and this is how I do it, you're talking to somebody who knows what they're doing. That's where you want to get your stuff right there. So that's probably the simplest one. Years ago, I was at a conference out in Vegas. I hate Vegas. Just it was a place where this was meeting, and
Hmm.
I would stay away from there for any reason I possibly could. But I'm in a conference.
Sometimes you just got to go.
Yeah, and I'm fading in the middle of the day, and I got to get out here and take a walk. So I'm taking a walk, and it's hot even in the middle of winter. And I see this building off in the distance. I go, okay, I'm going to go see what that is, and then I'm going to head back into this conference. And I get closer and closer, and I realize this is this organic store front. Not what exactly what it was, I wasn't sure, but it's like, okay, I'm going to go inside and check that out. And I come in and I see shopping cart after shopping cart being pushed by these obese people. You know, some maybe not morbidly obese, but significantly 30 to 50 pounds over what they should be.
Hmm?
Just gingerly mincing steps, pushing oftentimes with their spouse, sometimes not, buying organic junk food at 3 to 5 times the prices it's down in the local grocery store, and there's no difference in nutrients. I mean, they're
Yeah,
oh,
I look at the vegan world and their cheese. It's like, either you eat cheese or you don't eat cheese. I don't really care. Just like it's up to you. But don't tell me that you're gonna smush a whole bunch of cashews together and that's gonna be a good idea. Or making milks out of nuts. Nuts they come in a package, individually wrapped. Some of
mhm.
them aren't designed to be eaten like handfuls at a time. Maybe one or two is good for you, could help you. When you start like, it's like every time we get involved in processing stuff, we take anything that's possibly good about the situation and make it terrible. It's
Yeah,
almost always a bad idea.
JJ Virgin just put out a uh, VSL video sales letter about what they're doing with all these protein things. And you look at protein, if you protein and you mix it with a healthy fat, you got something pretty good. But once you start adding sweeteners to it and all that, you made a toxic bomb. And that's what everybody does. It used to be it's a common wedding um, snack put on tables. You take Skittles, this toxic sugar bomb with all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff, and you mix that with some kind of nuts as if that's going to be good. And you, if it looks like you just picked it off of a plant, it probably is. And that's one of the rule of thumbs. You don't get that anywhere. So you brought up nuts. Two places where you can get clean nuts. Trader Joe's has some of the cleanest nuts in North America. Uh, One real big surprise is Target. The Good and Gather has EWG.org has a list of toxicity of different foods and plants and all that. They have one of the lowest scores of any supply of nuts in North America. Who'd guess that? But it's a reality, and they're clean. But they got to be raw. You can't have them roasted. You roast them, it hydrogenates the oils, and you've destroyed the food value. So they have to be raw. Store them in the freezer so they don't oxidize. Oh,
Nuts. Real food doesn't store long term. It's just like you're supposed to pick it and eat it, and you should eat it in season. And
Mhm.
I've heard that when you grow your own food, that it actually changes the chemistry of the food to adapt to your body. Isn't that interesting?
It depends on if you know what you're doing. A lot of people are growing and they don't understand. We had a family that was going to a a place in a distant city where people brought their leaves and their grass clippings and all that, and they got compost and they seeded their garden space down with that, not realizing that in the city everybody sprays their gardens and their trees, and their garden was toxic. They couldn't eat anything they produced off of it. My wife's dad was a soil genius who studied under soil genius, and they taught master gardeners what to do. They know how to make soil. This is a mind blower about soil. I got into my wife's father's sources to look at things. One of his sources is Dr. Kerry Reams. He's the only one I've ever heard of that wrote a book about molecular physiology. And most people think, oh, that's a real heady subject. As soon as I finished that book, a friend of mine called me up and said, my son's just been shot. Can you pray? The hospital called her up and said, your son's been shot. He's not going to make it get down here. She waited. She got her prayer chain going. Then she went down there. She met one of her son's friend's mothers at the hospital. Never met her before. And his friend's mother asked my friend about me and said, if we send him a ticket, would he fly out here now? She goes, I don't know. To me, that's a God door. I live by those things. Mm-hmm. When he opens the door, I'm going through. And that's me. It's been me for decades. And so I fly out there, I'm sitting next to somebody in an airplane, and I got this finishing off and brushing up on a few things in this molecular physiology book. And that guy sitting next to me asked what that's about. And I tell him, he goes, oh man, that sounds like this really heady subject. I've never heard of that before at all. And I told him why I'm on the airplane. You know, your eyes get huge. What's a natural doc going out to visit somebody who just got shot? By the way, this was a trauma hospital. They had 5 trauma cases come in that night. This young man was the worst. He had 1 pint of blood left in him. When he showed up, it was his quick thinking brother to save that just with compressions and all. He's the only one that made it through the night. And we started doing things. He was on heavy morphine. Started talking to him about what he needed to do, and he made decisions, life-changing decisions under major morphine dosage to direct his health care. And he got out of the hospital in a few days. That's incredible. The bullet clipped the top of his bladder and went out through the iliac vein on the opposite hip. So he's bleeding internally. He shows up in the ER. They got a team of multiple doctors. One's cutting, one's got a staple gun, and one's looking for the bleed. And it's amazing what these guys are doing. As soon as they've seen it, they put hemostats on it, call in a vascular surgeon. He does his magic, grafts in a new vein right in there. He pulls off. They bring in a urologist who splits the bladder wall in 2 pieces, sews the inside one together, outside one together, put a catheter in him. He was able to control his urine with a catheter in. That's impossible.
That's incredible. Yeah.
That's just impossible. And went out and we started doing these really creative things. And he was pissed off because the bullet just exploded the beginning of his colon and the end of his small intestine. Just exploded, hydraulic thing. And they're looking at this and going, you know, we could put this together, try and make it look pretty, or we can save his life. We'll just cut off the bad stuff, slap it together. No ileocecal valve. And for anybody that doesn't know, the ileocecal valve regulates the influx, the contents, small intestines into the colon. And this young man's pissed because he's not going to have normal bowel functions the rest of his life. His name was Jacob, and I went through all their surgery notes, putting together what happened, and said they were stuck with this decision, and they made the best one. You made it. So now we just got to believe that God's going to make you a new one. Within 3 weeks, his bowel habits were absolutely, completely normal, and years down the road, they continue to be so. That's physically impossible. But that's a large part of why our success is 4 times more than anybody else can offer, because the Lord's a huge part of what we do. He empowers everything. He shows us what's going on, how to test for it, what to do. It's next level. It's just totally next level.
It is so amazing the ability a body has to overcome so much. Given, and I have a very bad, it's not even a feeling. I hold very bad sentiments about the medical community in general. But there are doctors out there that are amazing. They make these hard decisions and they save lives. But then somebody like you can come along and help them really heal.
Yeah, rebuild that life.
I love that. So how do you work with people? Are you in a clinic? Do you have people that are your clients online?
Most people we work with are distant.
Okay.
And work with, people pretty much all over. And there's advantages to working with people at distance, because there's some things you can evaluate at a distance better than you can in person. Like their toxic products inside of their house. Things along that line. It's a lot easier to do that at a distance. I've got a friend who did a podcast on my podcast, one of the earlier ones, and I work with him in person and I work with him in distance, and he says there's no difference in the outcome. The only thing is I don't get to see and enjoy him face to face anymore. But as far as care and resolution of things, it's not care. That's really the wrong word. We partner with people and we coach them into healthier lifestyles so they can rebuild and optimize their health. And that allows them to overcome a lot of the things that go on. It was Dr. Saul, SZAAL. She's an integrative medicine doc. She's the one that said, we've known this, that 80% of chronic illness will resolve all on its own if you just deal with the lifestyle issues. That's big.
People don't want to make those kinds of decisions. They want a pill that will excuse them to continue on in the lifestyle that they think they want to live.
But it won't change their situation at all.
It won't.
And it's a huge waste. And we work with a lot of people that have been stuck in that merry-go-round for 20, 30 plus years. And they've been to every kind of specialist, done every kind of thing, trying to attack what they think their diagnosis is. And nothing turns around until we deal with their lifestyle.
Yep.
It's just a reality.
How do people get in touch with you?
Where my book is, the Healing Lifestyle, that's probably the easiest. GetMeWell.net. Our website's healthfullyu.com. It's HEALTHFULLY, the letter U.com. The book will take you to that. I've also got a book called Exposing Lyme and Chronic Illness. And it goes through all the physiology and all of the interaction in a systems flow of what really is going on with almost all kinds of chronic illness. So you can really understand what's going on. And understanding that allows you to have a better choosing of clinicians you're going to work with.
I think that's very helpful. I really appreciate you joining me today, Dr. Brad. This has been an interesting conversation.
It always is. Never know where it's going to go, and when they're organic, they go where they need to go, and you just got to be abreast with that.
I totally agree. To learn more about Dr. Brad and download his free guide, Healing Lifestyle, please visit getmewell.net, and we'll be sure to put that link in the show notes below. Thanks for tuning in today to the You World Order Showcase podcast. If you're ready to amplify your voice, monetize your mission, and start attracting premium clients, your next step is simple. Head to thecoachesalchemist.com and schedule your free client acquisition audit. Be sure to join us for our next episode as we share what others are doing to raise the global frequency. And remember, change begins with you. You have all the power to change the world. Start today and get visible.